Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anamta Rizvi, a UPSC English Literature educator. Today we are talking about Shakespeare. Why is a writer who wrote 500, 600 years back still relevant? A question that can be asked in your UPSC mains exam, your interview, and of course your UPSC optional exams. That is English literature. So अगर हम लोग देखें शेक्सपियर अभी तक रेलिवेंट है. कैनन ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में सबसे ज्यादा अगर इंपॉर्टेंस दी जाती है शेक्सपियर को दी जाती है. इवन टुडे, इवन इफ वी सी सो मेनी ऑफ सिनेमा इज बेस्ड ऑन शेक्सपियरन प्ले. For instance, Indian cinema, Heather, Omkara, Macbeth, Makbul, and so on. So there is, of course, a certain legitimacy, extreme authenticity to this playwright. And today we are going to talk about power and politics. Shakespeare, how much he has written, how much the discourse that he has burgeoned on the idea of power and politics in the global politics, if we talk about the socio-political world, and so on. So with reference to Shakespearean plays, let's have a look, something very seminal for everyone, every civil servant aspirant who is preparing for the UPSC exam. Okay, next, if we talk about Shakespeare's relevance in today's world, let's talk about this. Let's read this entire slide and understand power, politics, and the human condition. Power, politics, and the human condition, the three seminal ideas, or you can say the quintessential factors that is really important in any living society. Okay, so Shakespeare continues to be deeply relevant in the 21st century because it explore universal themes. उसके प्लेज में वो थीम्स डिस्कस हुई हैं जो कि अभी तक आफ्टर 600 years आर ऑल्सो रेलिवेंट. व्हाट आर द थीम्स? पावर. कौन से ऐसी एज में ऑफ द ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन हैज पावर नॉट बिन द क्विंट एसेंशियल फैक्टर to continue, for the human race to bloom? I just hope the slide is visible to everyone. I'll just adjust the slide for a minute. Yes. All right. So, ambition, power, ambition, legitimacy, anything that is legitimate, जो authentic है, जिसको आप लोग एक certain certify कर सकते, एक bona fide चीज को. Legitimacy, tyranny, the tyrannical rule that we still see, that still is there. The dictatorship, it was there then, it still is there now. Public opinion, doesn't it matter in democracy how much public opinion matters? So this is definitely the point. And moral leadership, issues that dominate global politics even in today's world. Guys, power, ambition, legitimacy, tyranny, public opinion, and yes, moral leadership are the factors जो आज तक relevant है when you talk about global politics. He does not offer fixed answers, but dramatize करता है the complexities of governing a land, the complexities of the governance, much like the dilemmas faced in modern democracies like India. If we look at this, Shakespeare के सबसे खूबसूरत बात, if you could say the most, you can say the genius thing about Shakespeare's intellect was that Shakespeare ने कभी भी सिखाया नहीं ये करना चाहिए वो करना चाहिए. उसने डिलेमास रखे, उसने सिचुएशंस रखी कि क्या चूज करो. ना कुछ गलत है ना कुछ सही है. This is how Shakespeare tried to portray his drama, and this is how the idea of governance so vividly portrays in his works. So let us explore every quality of power and politics, every feature of power and politics one by one. So talking about this, power and legitimacy, अगर हम power and legitimacy की बात करें, सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है पॉलिटिक्स के लिए पावर होने चाहिए और आपको एक लेजिटिमेट रूलर होना चाहिए. यू नीड टू हैव सर्टेन लेजिटिमेसी. आप क्यों आए? अगर आप किसी किंग के बेटे हैं, एक लेजिटिमेट रूलर तभी आप होंगे. अगर हम मोनार्की की बात करें, अगर आप डेमोक्रेसी की बात करें तो आपको इलेक्ट होना चाहिए. सो यू मस्ट हैव पावर एंड यू मस्ट हैव अ लेजिटिमेट पावर टू प्रूव दैट यस आई एम द लीडर. ये कहाँ दिखाया गया है? रिचर्ड द सेकंड का जो प्ले था, जो 1595, अ हिस्टोरिकल प्ले, की कैरेक्टर किंग रिचर्ड द सेकंड, डिवाइन राइट वर्सेस अर्न्ड लेजिटिमेसी. व्हाट इज डिवाइन राइट? जब किंग का बेटा पैदा होता है, प्रिंस कहलाते हैं. जब उन किंग की डेथ हो जाती है तो प्रिंस automatically becomes the king. That's a divine right. That prince has a divine right that I will be the next legitimate ruler. But when we talk about earned legitimacy, जैसे डेमोक्रेसी में होता है, हम सिलेक्ट करते हैं, इलेक्ट करते हैं अपने उनके टैलेंट को देके, उनके लीडरशिप स्किल्स को देके, उनके पावर को देके, स्ट्रेंथ को देके, उनके इंटेलेक्ट को देके. दैट इज अर्न्ड लेजिटिमेसी व्हेन वी इलेक्ट आवर लीडर्स थिंकिंग दैट यस दिस लीडर इज फिट टू बिकम आवर द वन हु लीड अस. ओके, सो रिचर्ड बिलीव्स kings are chosen by God. So ये divine right में क्या होता था ना, ये monarchy को establish करने के लिए they used to reinstate the idea that the prince, the kings, whoever is born, whoever continues the legitimacy of the monarchy system, उनका basic idea है कि वो God ने choose किया है उनको. Right? So King Richard II, who was of course in favor of monarchy, क्योंकि उनको अपनी power चलानी थी, उन्हीं ने बोला कि ये हमारा divine right है, my divine inheritance है, क्योंकि God is the one to choose us. So are unquestionable, however, इसका misgovernance. But do you think that every divine, every king who is, every prince who becomes a king is able to govern well? No. Ultimately, it comes how you are going to, how your work matters, how you're going to go ahead with your leadership skills, how you're going to govern the land. Therefore, Richard II, जिनको लगता था कि उनकी जो power है, legitimacy है, that is only because that he's a prince, he was wrong because he was a poor governor. So his misgovernance and detachment led to his deposition by Bolingbroke. Another rebellion Bolingbroke ने किया था, उनको खत्म कर दिया. Who claims power through political savvy. In today's democratic world, especially when we talk about our own country, legitimacy comes from performance and public support, not lineage. If we talk about democratic world, do you think certain such kind of monarchical leadership plays any role in today's world? Of course not. Democracy, we are proud of the fact that India is the largest democracy, and yes, we are governed by that idea. We choose the one of the best leaders, and therefore, this is how it goes. So, if we talk about power and legitimacy, Richard II is a very good example. Manipulation and rhetoric, Julius Caesar. I'm sure a lot of my students are familiar with the idea of Julius Caesar. ICSE, CBSE के syllabus में सबने पढ़ा होगा. ये 1599 का work है. Key characters Brutus and Mark Antony. Julius Caesar पे play based है, लेकिन Julius Caesar is killed by a group of his own enemies, जिसमें से Brutus और and Cassius. All these are members of that. So the power of political speech, manipulation and rhetoric. So to become in politics, what is one thing that you need is good oration. आपके पास rhetorical oratory speech है. अगर you have the faculty to manipulate and maneuver the situation, you will be an invincible leader. We all know that, right? So manipulation and rhetoric, yes, they are quintessential. इसमें दिखाया Julius Caesar में जब Julius Caesar की death होती है, Mark Antony, a friend of Julius Caesar, he comes on the stage and he takes the podium और वो जितने भी audiences को address करता है, मतलब कि he is addressing the public of Rome at that time. And when he is addressing, वो इतना rhetorical speech देता है that everyone is so sadly moved by the fact that Julius Caesar was wrongly killed. उसकी एक स्पीच के लिए, इसकी एक स्पीच की वजह से the entire narrative changed. उसकी एक स्पीच की वजह से everyone was against the killers of Julius Caesar. पहले सब लोग सपोर्ट करते थे ब्रूटस को, कैशियस को, but no. After the speech of Mark Antony, the rhetorical speech of Mark Antony, everything changed. That is the power of manipulation. That is the power of rhetoric speech of a leader. And hence, very important till today. Brutus appeals to Roman logic to justify Caesar's assassination. Antony, however, he moves the masses. जो पूरे public होती है उसको move करता है with emotion, irony and performance, with great rhetorical speech. Relevant Shakespeare highlights how public perception is shaped. If we talk about our own country, political leaders and media uses similar persuasive tools. We use a similar rhetoric. Our leaders, our media journalists use the same rhetorical speech to create a narrative or to distort a narrative. Okay, so a rhetorical speech and manipulation is very important when you talk about power and politics. Then you have next play, and that is Tyranny and Ambition, Macbeth. Of course, we still in this world, we can see how tyrannical the world can be. If not in India, but across the global politics, we see that yes, still dictatorship is ruling the world. So over here, key characters Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Theme: corruption through unchecked ambition. When your ambition goes unchecked, the corruption has no limits. Okay, so Macbeth murders King Duncan. Why? A very nice leader, King Duncan, very kind, docile, gentle leader. He is killed. Why? Because Macbeth went so ambitious with his dream of becoming the king that he kills King Duncan very unjustly. So Macbeth murders King Duncan to usurp the throne only to be consumed by paranoia and guilt. But end में क्या होता है? Macbeth goes completely insane with the idea that he killed an innocent man, a man who loved him, King Duncan, and this was the reason that he goes completely insane. Paranoia, guilt, gloom, everything just overshadows him till the end of the play, and yes, ultimately he dies. Relevance in modern political context, this reflects how ambition without any ethics lead to complete collapse. Okay, so in Indian political history, including power struggles, so even if we look at the history of Indian political system, we see that yes, any time if there has been a sort of a dictatorship, that has always fallen flat. So the idea of unchecked ambition leads to corruption, and that is nothing else. Next, you have statecraft and leadership in the play Henry V, that is 1599. Okay, so key characters में कौन है? Henry V है, and strategic unifying leadership. Okay, so statecraft and leadership, quintessential factors when we talk about power and politics. Do we need statecraft? Do we need to have the ability to know how a state is ruled? Yes. Do we need to have extreme great leadership qualities? Excellent, absolutely right. So Henry, over here, Henry V evolves from a reckless prince, a prince who takes his royalty for granted, a reckless prince, to a calculated, charismatic king. And that is what it is needed. That ultimately, no matter how much you take your position for granted, ultimately, what will make you win, what will make you loved, what will lead your country is your charisma, your charismatic leadership skills, your calculated, and the strength that you display when you are leading a country. He wins hearts, maintains discipline, and achieves military success in France, and still it is relevant. Statecraft and leadership, Henry's model of leadership, balancing compassion, decisiveness. एक decision-making ability बहुत ज़रूरी होती है एक leader के लिए. So, and diplomacy is ideal for modern statesmanship. So this, of course, becomes a very important element, statecraft and leadership. Next, moving ahead, we have disconnect with the people. Now, let's talk about this. Coriolanus. Coriolanus बहुत अच्छा play है. उसमें जो Coriolanus होता है, king होता है, is very ambitious, very nice. However, the disconnect with the people makes him a very poor leader. So theme, the elite versus the masses, a noble word despite the common people and resents the idea of appealing to them for words. So Coriolanus is extremely talented, good leadership skills, fit to become the king, but he was the one that I cannot appeal the masses. That makes him a failed leader. So Coriolanus, a noble word, despises. He hates the common people and he resents the fact. वो बिल्कुल dislike करता है the fact that I have to appeal them. I have to request them to make them the leader, make him the leader. The idea of appealing to them for votes, his arrogance lead to his political failure. Okay, so relevance in Indian democracy. Any leader, even if we talk about India or any world leader across the world, we always see that, a connect with the people is very important. Ultimately, the leaders become leaders because of the people. The people choose them that, yes, this person will lead us. And hence, to make a connect with the people, to make sure that, yes, you understand them, you feel them, there needs to be an empathy, a sense of sympathy for them. And that makes you a good leader. Okay, so Coriolanus had a disconnect with the people, and hence that caused a complete fiasco for his political life. Okay, then you have political intrigue and ruthlessness. If we look at Richard III. Okay, so key character Richard III. Now, guys, this is one of the most gruesome, or you can say the most malicious play. Okay, as a very cunning ruler, Richard III. He kills innocent children, innocent women and men just because he wanted to reinstate his power as the king. So Richard manipulates, lies, and kills way to the throne only to be haunted and destroyed by his guilt and enemies. What do we expect our leader to be? Definitely, he needs to be smart, strategic, manipulative, however, not cunning, not unkind. Because what makes a leader is his virtues. And this is the reason, no matter if we talk about power and politics, no matter how much a leader or a king or anyone who leads the people, he wants to reinstate he wants to reestablish the power by being unjust or unfair or unkind. Ultimately, there has to be a downfall. Then you have next question, next slide, resistance and dissent in Hamlet. So what happens in Hamlet? We all know Hamlet's story, बहुत famous है, that Hamlet basically wanted to kill his king uncle Claudius because Uncle Claudius, it was kind of in the play suggested that Uncle Claudius was the one who had killed Hamlet's father. So now Hamlet hesitates, reflects, and ultimately chooses to act against the unjust rule of his uncle Claudius. So, okay, so questioning corrupt authority. Now, this becomes important, that ultimately resistance and dissent. Now, this is a quintessential element if we talk about democracy also. Okay, democracy is meant to make sure that you're questioning the government, make sure that you are asking questions, the right questions from the government, so that they also know that yes, ultimately they are accountable to the people, to the masses who have elected them to be where they are. Okay, so resistance and dissent. So this play represents moral introspection and resistance, echoing civil disobedience in India. For instance, we had the civil disobedience in India, wherein that, you know, how the Indian leaders completely resisted British authority, saying that we're not going to obey you, we are going not to be, but we are going to be civil, but we're not going to obey you, and hence we want freedom. Okay, so remember, Indian politics is kind of replete with the idea of how resistance and dissent makes a country much more stronger. Then you have fragility of authority, जैसे King Lear में देखा था, that authority is not absolute. Now King Lear divides his kingdom based on flattery and loses control over both his kingdom and mental state. So this King Lear UPSC के English Literature के optional course में भी है for all my students, whoever wants to take English Literature Optional. तो इसमें जो King Lear है, उनकी बेटी होती Gondrel, Regan and Cornelia. So उनके बीच में he divides the kingdom on the basis whoever declares कि मुझे ज़्यादा कौन affection दिखाता है. So on this you can say flimsy basis, he divides his kingdom. Cornelia loved him the most, but no, he gives the land to Gondrel and Regan because they were able to manipulate the father and say that, oh, I have such affection for you, oh, I have so much of concern for you. That was all completely false. So what happens? That his power proves fragile when separated from wisdom and truth. Hence, what do you need when you're talking about fragility of authority? You cannot have a fragile authoritative stance. Your authority needs to be assertive. Your authority needs to have that power that can mold the people. Your authority needs to have that substance. Therefore, a leader with fragile way of taking decisions, that is where it goes wrong. So Lear's downfall is a lesson in how power, when exercised without wisdom, without discernment, when your authority becomes fragile, weak, then that can collapse rapidly. Okay, so remember this, guys. These were the 8 aspects that we talk about power and politics. Every feature talks about, is relevant in today's world as well, especially talked about India. And secondly, whatever that we have discussed, whatever plays that we have discussed, they're all very important. Again, I'm repeating all this once again, that this, a very easy question can be asked आपके मेंस एग्जाम में, आपके इंटरव्यूज में, that how is Shakespeare relevant? अगर कोई इंग्लिश का प्रोफेसर या कोई इंग्लिश लिटरेचर के ऑप्शनल कोई आपके इंटरव्यू में बैठे होंगे, IAS or IPS or whoever takes the interview, 100% this question can be asked. Okay, so guys, if you want to go ahead with such more interesting videos and for more such information, if you want to prepare for your English literature optional subject, go ahead with my course. And we are starting with the complete brand new batch on 18th April. My class is every day 1 p.m. And over here, the price is around 14,999. Use my code ARLIVE over here. Okay, and you will be able to get more valid discount. Okay, so guys, with this, I'm coming to an end of my lecture. I hope to see you soon for another lecture. Stay tuned.